It's easy to get a little bit jaded with the state of gaming, especially when you're getting comments like we got from the Avowed devs recently. Basically came out not just with open racism, but pretty much saying they hate most of their audience, they hate the average gamer. Then there were leaked messages internally from Obsidian where they confirmed as much, like the whole team seemingly on the same page. It's like a cult. These are the people making games. It's bad enough that they don't like us, but are these people actually capable of making anything of quality? I don't really think so anymore. So you see a lot of that. You can get disheartened. But occasionally there's a glimmer of hope. You get devs out there, they're quietly going about their business, making their games. They've been doing it for years. Many devs out there that are actually great. But it seems like they're even getting a little bit more courageous. No one's really getting cancelled by the blue hairs, the pink hairs anymore. It seems that era is fast coming to an end. It's a great thing. And one of those devs is Daniel Vavra, the studio founder for the Kingdom Come Deliverance series. He's also directed both games. Now, to be fair, he's always been giving great takes on Twitter. He's always spoken his mind. For instance, during the development of Kingdom Come Deliverance 1, there were people telling him, no, you can't have historical accuracy. That's racist, that's sexist. No, you've got to put these people in. You've got to check all these boxes. And he simply said, no, we've consulted experts. I'm not listening to you. I care about the integrity of my game, not virtue signaling on Twitter at the time. So he did what he wanted to do, told people to F off. And I will say over the last few years, he's maybe been a little bit more subdued on Twitter. Maybe someone had a word in his ear and said, hey, if there's a controversy on social media, then it does harm to the game. People harass our staff and so on. So I think he took a step back. But now he's gone mask off in the best way possible, in a very positive way. And he's basically just come out and clowned all over the Veilguard devs. They deserve it, the people making the Veilguard. It's obvious that they share the thoughts of, say, the Avowed art director. All these people in most of these Western game studios, the usual suspect ones, where you look at their game, you know who's making it. These people shouldn't be in the industry. They're idiots. They prove it every single time. And to see Daniel Vavra clown all over them, it's great, especially when he's actually speaking from a point of authority. He's about to put out what will probably be a banger of a game. The first one was great, so they've already proven it, and he's likely going to follow it up. But he put out a tweet just a couple of days ago where he says, wow, 7-year-old game versus recent release. And it's comparing the player numbers of the first Kingdom Come Deliverance, which came out, I think, like 5 years ago now. It's been ages. Time's certainly flown, I can't believe that. But the Veilguard, which came out literally a few weeks ago, and looking at the numbers, Kingdom Come Deliverance, years-old game, is doing better right now. More people are playing the first Deliverance than they are playing the Veilguard. The player peak is very similar, which is also kind of sad for the Veilguard, because Kingdom Come was like a kickstarted game. They couldn't even get a publisher, at least initially, to actually fund the game. I think they got some investment later, but they had a bunch of funding really just from fans. Fans themselves funded the game. And yet, despite probably a lack of marketing, all these things, it's still peaked higher than the Veilguard. And that includes the all-time peak 7 years ago. I don't know why I said 5 years before. It literally says 7 years old in the tweet. My bad. But he actually continues with this as well. He says, have to say that I didn't expect such a meltdown just because I was happy that my game was doing well, that we were doing surprisingly well after all these years. Chill, everyone. And he's not wrong about the meltdowns. They are predictable. There are a million reasons why you shouldn't post or even think this way. As a developer who knows what it's like to be in the trenches, and who knows that in this industry anything can happen, you can and you should be more mature than this. And Daniel responds, thank you for your advice on how to think. And this guy, he's created his own video game studio. It's tremendously successful. They started with literally nothing. Again, crowdfunding their first game, no real resources. It's a huge success against all of the odds. They get bought out for probably a ton of money. Daniel, I'm sure he's loaded now. He's rolling in it. And now they're making a sequel. And it doesn't even seem like he had to compromise his vision, despite the studio getting brought out. He's able to still do his own thing, because he commands respect in the industry. He's delivered I don't know about this other dev giving the advice. I have a feeling hasn't done too much. Someone else says, I could say a few things about Kingdom Come Deliverance, but I'm too polite. I will say it's stupid comparing yourselves to a franchise that's on its 4th title release and still going this strong despite past failures. How about current failures? And when did it last actually do positive things? Like, everyone who reminisces about Dragon Age, they just point to the first entry. It's like, this isn't really a franchise that people like. It's one game. People like one game that they remember fondly, and then there's a few other ones that are like maybe playable. I think Inquisition, like, people were hopeful for maybe a decent follow-up after the disappointment of Dragon Age 2. Some people probably told themselves at the time that they enjoyed it because they really didn't want to dislike it. But it's funny to think about because it was winning Game of the Year awards. The critics were shilling for it, but the players don't seem to like it. It's hard to find people who genuinely love Inquisition. And it's the same thing with the Veilguard. We've got to rinse and repeat, even though the Veilguard looks much, much worse than Inquisition. Same thing though, the critics praised it, it's Game of the Year material, but you can't find a player who genuinely loves it. We'll see if Kingdom Come will make it there with the same numbers, but I suggest you should shut your mouth until... Well, I was talking about the sales numbers, the pre-order numbers on Steam so far. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is blowing the Veilguard out of the water. It's likely going to do much, much better, and it actually has hype around it, unlike the Veilguard, where there were people genuinely excited for a new Dragon Age. Like, the stink of BioWare had started to wear off after Anthem. I think people had forgotten, so they were kind of optimistic. But then the Summer Games Fest Veilguard companion trailer, watch the one where there's the girl swinging in on the vines, and they're all introducing them, and they all look lame. Every companion looks absolutely terrible. The hype evaporated overnight. They never got it back. And I think the sales numbers, the player numbers for the Veilguard basically reflect that. No one apart from like the real hardcore fans who were always going to buy it, no one else was interested. So Daniel's 100% within his rights for making this comparison. Totally correct. Everyone who's arguing with them, they're basically just upset. They're basically saying, this is mean, stop doing this, this isn't how fellow devs behave. Like, no one can actually say, no, but the Veilguard was a success. Everyone knows it was a failure. Even the devs themselves came out recently in an interview, and they were like, oh, it was critically respected, like the paid shills, the people who don't even care about the game, we just put the right pronouns in the product, that was enough to get them on board. They said it was good. They, again, Game of the Year material. But normal people, regular people who actually had to pay for the game, they didn't get a freebie from BioWare, they didn't have any interest. They didn't buy it. The player numbers reflect that. And Reddit is particularly mad about this as well. The Dragon Age subreddits talking about this, and they're desperately trying to throw shade at Daniel Vavra, but there's no material. Like, the guy, he's been a success in games his whole life. And I kind of feel sorry for these people because they're defending a game in the Veilguard that I'm not even sure people hate anymore. Like, it's just apathy. Like, people just don't care. Like, realistically, this isn't a Starfield situation where people were expecting it to be good, and then it released, and then the disappointment sort of came over them, and it's like, oh, I don't want this to be bad, so I'll tell myself it's good, I'll keep pushing on, and then eventually reality hits. Like, the Veilguard, everyone knew it was going to be awful months and months out. There's a little bit of cope that does the rounds, it happens, but aside from that, like, everyone knew it was going to be awful. It was just about, like, how much laughter can we get from this? How much material is actually in there to clown on? That's really it. So people don't hate it. People have just moved on. But these people, the Veilguard community, they're still here with the pitchforks looking for anything to smear Daniel Vavra with. And there's no material, really. They're very desperate. So, for instance, firstly, they're trying to say the meme itself is stupid. They're saying, oh, I mean, according to Steam database, Red Dead Redemption 2's peak was lower than both games. And I'm pretty sure that hit a peak during a Black Friday sale. Does that mean it's bad? No, this is absolutely silly. Well, as we know, it's very unfortunate. Rockstar don't launch their games on PC. We'll see if that changes with GTA 6, but that in itself is probably desperate thinking. They're probably going to want the double dip again. So Red Dead Redemption 2 launched on consoles, came to PC, much later. I'm pretty sure it launched on Steam. I don't think it was just their launcher to start. Can't really remember, but it doesn't matter. Like, the game was already old when it came to Steam, so it's telling that you've specifically used that game as an example, when it's bad faith. Nice try, you should have picked a game that actually released day one on Steam. That's what matters, that's what this comparison is. And then we move into the next stage, trying to discredit Kingdom Come Deliverance. There's no real defense of the Veilguard, so this is the best these people can do. I don't know, personally, I wouldn't brag that so many people waited for my game to be on sale for $5 before buying it. Interesting example, given that Inquisition feels like it's been on sale for that for like at least the last 9 years. Like, anytime I see Inquisition on any sort of sale, it's dirt cheap. They're trying to give it away, basically. They've done that for a long time, and I'm pretty sure it was so they could brag about reaching a milestone. I don't know if it was 5 million, 10 million or something, but most of those copies of Inquisition were bargain bin price. And seeing the Suicide Squad game recently just be massively discounted on Steam, it was in the $4 pile or something, and that was the big deluxe edition, super expensive edition when it came out. Now it's been like 95% discounted. The Veilguard's gonna suffer the same fate. It's going to be discounted hugely, bigly, much before Kingdom Come Deliverance ever was. You're talking about a 7-year-old game here, and it makes sense that you're making it dirt cheap, because the sequel's coming out. It's a direct sequel where the story follows on, so you'd want people to experience the first one. If they're on the fence, basically give it away for cheap so that people can get into the new one, maybe spend a bit more if they're excited to see how the story continues. Basic business strategy in the game industry. So if this is the best you've got, it's not going well. From what I understand, dude is just another man-child who has hopped on the anti-woke train for relevance after getting some criticism for an earlier game. Can't remember, nor do I really care what it was. So you don't remember what the earlier game he was criticized for was, because it doesn't exist. Basically, all the games this guy's put out has been bangers. They've all been bangers. Like Mafia 1, Mafia 2, not quite as good, but still much better than most of the trash that gets put out now. Like the Veilguard in comparison, Jesus, like Mafia 2 is a gold standard. Then he makes his own studio, it's a big success. Like a lot of these studio veterans who go off to do their own thing, it doesn't always work out. I'm pretty sure Casey Hudson from BioWare, who was there for like the original Mass Effect games and so on, he tried to do his own thing. I think they closed their studio recently, 2 years trying to make games, and it failed basically. They didn't put out a single game. Daniel Vavra, on the other hand, he starts his own thing, crowdfunding. They put out an immense game that's very popular. They're now making a sequel. You've got nothing. There's nothing really to criticize him about in terms of actual game development. He's a veteran, a qualified veteran of making quality, like fantastic stuff. And now you're just making up stories. And the idea that he's hopped on the anti-woke train, he was talking about this stuff like 8 years ago. Like, during the development of Kingdom Come Deliverance, very few people, especially devs, were willing to stand up to your crap. But he did it, and he said it's a point of experience. Like, my family experienced your woke crap in reality. Our government. There was communism, and it was not good. I don't want that brought back, so I'm stamping down on you trying to thought police me. You're trying to say he's just looking for relevance, he's just jumping on the train. No, he actually experienced this stuff, the consequences of it. He's the total opposite of a grifter or whatever you're referring to. And that sort of mindset continues. Another coper here. Disappointing behavior from a fellow dev. It's a little surprising to see him engaging in that kind of behavior when, as a dev, he knows full well that there are many behind-the-scenes metrics beyond Steam concurrency numbers that the average player is not privy to that help to inform the success or failure of a game. Just absolute cope. Like, no, we can see the numbers. The Veilguard, no one's playing it, and the devs, like, if there was any success to point to, the devs would have mentioned it. They did an interview recently where they admitted, it would have been good if more people actually bought the game. The critics said it was good, but no one believes them anymore because everyone knows they're corrupt, and they're just shilling for real-life political reasons. They're thinking game directed by a trans person, non-binary quest line that drags on forever. That ticks another box. Was just reading today about that character's diary, actually. I missed that when I was sort of talking about the game. I don't know how I did, but That diary, it reads like one of the BioWare developers, they'd just been allowed back from the Institute. They had a ton of notes with them. That's what they were doing in there, scribbling notes around the white padded room. And then they just shoved those into the game. It's an interesting read, a scary read, that diary of the non-binary character. But all that stuff, that contributed to the Veilguard getting positive critical reviews. Had very little to do with the actual game's quality. But then you've got this person basically saying, no, even though the devs admitted it was a sales failure and they seem a bit upset, there's no way it failed. There must be these secret metrics somewhere that paint another picture. There's no way possibly I could be in a minority. I'm the only one who likes it. I'm not a moron. This can't be. Then you got this. At least Veilguard was playable on release. This knob can't say the same. Basically talking about how Kingdom Come Deliverance at launch, it was pretty clunky. There were technical problems. I remember it was a mess for me on PC when it came out. I actually waited a little while so it would be a bit smoother. That's true. But again, it was a kickstarted, ambitious project from a small team. Like, they were absolutely punching above their weight. And while the technical stuff, it wasn't quite right, it needed improvement, there was a gem underneath it all. Like, the actual content in the game, the meat of the game, was fantastic. And it's a great experience to play now, if you did experience at launch, and maybe the technical stuff turned you off. This is like the only thing anyone can praise the Veilguard about. It plays well, it runs relatively smoothly, like Digital Foundry say, oh, it's all smooth, good FPS, good quality visuals. That's all you've got, there's no meat on the bone, and even if it runs smoothly, you can put it at high graphical settings and you don't run into technical issues. Doesn't really matter because the art style itself sucks. So even that is kind of wasted. At least if it was like really nice to look at, maybe it would have sucked a few more people into buying it. But it doesn't even look good. Like, the art style, it's abysmal. And I feel like these art directors, whether it is the Veilguard, Avowed, Concord, whatever it might be, the art directors for all these games, probably awful people. Was the Concord one the professor? Probably not, but probably very similar. Like, they're all bad, not just the Avowed one. It seems like they almost do a public service, though, where it's like, if you explained Avowed on paper to someone, even the Veilguard, like it's an RPG, single player, no microtransaction, that's what we're looking for. If it actually looked good, that might convince some people. But because it just looks awful, from a stylistic point of view, like, you look at it and you just know you're getting nothing cool here, nothing immersive. Saves people money, saves people time. We know well in advance that there's going to be problems, so we take the wait and see approach. These art directors, they've been doing a good thing, so I hope it continues, because you look at Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, there's no garbage, simply looks good, historically accurate, which is what they're going for. You just get the feeling it's going to be a good time. These Reddit clowns, they're mostly crying, they're mostly mad because they don't have a leg to stand on. Kingdom Come Deliverance was a success, it was a good game. The Veilguard, a failure, it was not a good game. The sequel, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, that is going to cause some meltdowns, because I have a feeling it's going to do tremendously well. It's going to be the game I think people are hoping Dragon's Dogma 2 would be, where it's like big, hyped up RPG, 80, 100 plus hours of content, heaps to do. Everyone's talking about it like they were with Baldur's Gate 3, Elden Ring, and so on, but Dogma 2 was a bit disappointing for some people. Definitely on PC, I refunded it because of the technical problems. I'm sure that won't be the case with Deliverance 2 based on them releasing it early. Don't think it'll be the same technical mess, but maybe wait and see for that. You never know given the PC requirements, but these people are losing their mind. Daniel Vavra, consistent. He hasn't changed in like a decade. It's good to see. Thanks for listening. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.